Is everybody ready to go?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
What episode is this? This is
216.
216. Wow.
It's just that awe moment of like, wow, it's one more number.
Yes.
One higher number.
And that we're keeping the numbers straight tonight because we've been recording out of sequence. So
Yeah.
216?
Well, now people know that. You just fucking gave it away.
Well, but I like to let people see behind the curtain, Steve, because
just a little peek.
a little exciting.
Can't give it
for them.
away.
Yeah, it's a
Just
thrill
little
for them.
Yeah.
But if you're listening, yes, this is Movie Schmovie, episode 216. I'm John.
Steve.
I'm Ron. Hello.
And
I am Mike Finazzo.
we have a guest.
Wild
Hi,
card.
Mike. Welcome back on the show.
Thanks for having me, guys.
You folks out there might remember we had Mike on a while back when he was promoting his film Wit's End.
Yeah, it was like exactly 2 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was reminded on my Facebook on this day.
Yeah.
2 years. Nothing has changed in the world since the last time
That's true.
we got together. La La Land won Best Picture.
Right.
Hillary's president.
Yes.
Orioles, better than ever.
Killing it.
Yeah.
I see a ring in our future.
Yes.
Right.
So that's 2 years, though, for you to go from finishing a movie to now having another movie that's getting ready to come out. That's pretty exciting.
Yeah, I'm kind of on a pace now where it's kind of doing a movie every other year. Because I think when you're doing a movie on this level, it's like you're spending a year making the movie and then spending a year getting it out into the world.
wow.
So, yeah, like I think like after I talked to you guys, I pretty much spent all that summer getting Wit's End into film festivals and playing that movie for people. And about a year ago, I started this movie, and now we're ready to get this one out. So.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So the next year is going to be all about getting people to see it.
Yeah, exactly. I've applied to a ton of film festivals. So yeah, this summer and fall will be all about, film festivals and then just figuring out how we're going to release it after that. So
Nice.
exactly.
Really
Yeah.
cool, man.
I'm so curious. What does that look like at this level of a film? And like, I'm assuming a lot of it was self-financed. And like, when you get to the point that you've done your film festival thing, you've done your promotion and things like this, what does the conversation look like when you get to the point of like, how are we distributing the film? Like, what has your exposure been either with Wit's End or?
So with Wit's End in particular, it was kind of weird because like it's such a small movie. Like
Yeah.
it's even more micro than the movie we just made in terms
Right.
of budget.
Okay.
And it's a very niche movie in terms of the subject matter. So it's like after we played at a few film festivals, like we had like a few opportunities for like really small distribution deals, but they were like the kind of deals where we'd have to pay into it ourselves, and there's like no way we would ever make money off the movie.
Right,
We would continue
okay.
losing money, and quite frankly, not as like we would still be doing all of the promotion to have people to see it. Like it's not even like, all right, you'll break even, but you'll get way more eyeballs on the movie, which I would totally be for.
Sure.
So yeah, it would be more of like we would have a distributor in name only, but have just as much exposure as we do now. So for that movie, I just put out for free, and we put a PayPal account together so people could just donate whatever they wanted.
Right.
Which was like cool because like a lot of people still saw the movie, and like we didn't like that movie was so like literally no budget that it wasn't a loss on our end. It was like we just made the movie to have people see it, and they did. And also with indie films and kind of in like the lexicon now of movies, there's a lot of the big movies are in the theaters and have these long theatrical runs, and then indie movies go online anyway, and really film festivals has become the theatrical run for movies like Wit's End and Bored in the USA.
Yeah.
So Wit's End played at like 13 film festivals and played in front of like a bunch of different audience and different kinds of people. So like that was the theatrical run for us. And yeah, there's the easiest way to get it out there, and like the most effective way was to distribute that movie. So we'll see what happens with this one. I think that we've gotten really good feedback from like bigger festivals so far.
Good.
Even ones that we haven't gotten like notifications from one way or the other. So like there's a feeling that like somebody else probably will put out this movie, but I don't know what that looks like yet. We're still so early in the process that yeah, I'm just really not sure
That's awesome.
after the
Okay.
film festival life what it's going to be like. So.
Yeah.
What have you learned between the two projects, just in terms of development of the movie and all that stuff? How's it?
I think that Yeah, I mean, you know, like when in doing stand up, like there isn't as much, like obviously you're learning stuff each time, but for me it's just getting more comfortable doing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like I think I was much more confident on this one, like even when stuff was going wrong, to know like, well, you know, that we'll eventually get there, or we can change stuff, or yeah, like I think it's just that self-assurance is more there. But yeah, and then obviously there's a million technical lessons every time you do anything, and that's the reason to keep doing it too. It's just to keep learning stuff. So cool. I think with this one in particular, like I'm a little more confident with just the process of it. So
cool.
Well, I can attest to that, having been involved somewhat with the production.
I should have led with that actually. So yeah, your own John Walker did the music for the movie, and it really is wonderful, and it's almost a character in the movie to me. So
well, I definitely was kind of keying off the mood of what you were sending me, so it was fun, that back and forth. But the reason I mentioned that was not, I appreciate you saying that, but the reason I mentioned that was because I would say I saw how, like, you know, you would kind of keep me posted, and there would be this problem, and if I didn't respond quickly enough, like, you know, you weren't asking me, like, what am I going to do? But you would say thoughts on this, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
And then I would be like, I'm going to tell Mike what I think. And then I would say something, and you'd be like, I've already decided to cut it. Or I'm reshooting it. Or we're doing the audio again. So I do think you were being decisive. Like, you were maybe, it's not like there wasn't any wasted energy or wasn't any wasted time. Because I think when you're developing a movie that is so, like, dialogue driven and happens so much in the performances, you're going to figure things out in the shooting of it that don't exist on the page.
Right.
So I do think you changed your idea of what the movie was, but I noticed you were very responsive to all of those problems, and so every time you had a problem, it kind of seemed like it was clarifying your idea of what the movie was going to be, because you actually cut quite a bit of material that was written and shot for the movie, right? And some of it was some of the hardest stuff to get. When you were talking about doing that, I was like, oh, that's scary, telling those people that great Saturday they came and everybody did a good job. It turned out great, but I'm not using it.
You're triggering my PTSD.
I'm sorry.
No, it's funny. And it's funny too that, like, you know, what Ronald's saying about, like, the differences between the movies and kind of what you learn, and that was the biggest difference for this movie is, like, Wit's End, I think there's one cut scene in that movie, and, like, pretty much the script you look at, what you see. This one, like, it's just a different process, and, like, learning to adapt to, like, different styles and processes, or and getting, like, more confident the more you do it with that stuff, in kind of like working on the fly and changing stuff. And what you're talking about with the story that got cut, just being able to say, all right, this is going off the rails a little bit, how do we fix that on the fly, and being able to do that.
I just mean that the confidence to say, I'm going to make this decision, rather than continuing to work with something just because we tried hard.
Right.
And so it's almost like you were realizing that the decision to include that stuff in the story in the first place was you weren't sure what the material was yet, you know?
Yeah, and I think, and we're being vague about it, so is it okay if I clarify?
Yes, I didn't know how much you wanted to clarify.
No, it's okay, that's fine. I just, it's weird to be like, yeah, remember when you cut that thing? Yeah, it was a thing that we cut.
Like an entire B plot.
Yeah, so the way because we haven't really said what the movie's about.
Let's say what the name of the movie is,
the movie's,
too.
Yeah.
We're all such pros.
You dropped it earlier.
Did I?
Okay.
Born in the USA is the movie.
It warrants repeating.
I'm glad I'm doing this podcast first, because I have a ton of press next week, and this is batting practice.
Right.
Yeah,
that's what we kind of promote ourselves as.
Yes.
View us as just the batting cage. It matters not.
Yeah, we're what they call a starter podcast.
Just put another quarter in and hit the button. Just try again.
When I'm on Dan Roderick's next week, I'm gonna have notes being like, say the name of the movie.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I love this show, and I think highly of you guys. So I just don't.
I also love my batting cage. As well.
I just don't want your listeners to be like, man, Mike's a dick. Shitting on our movie.
They're very protective, all five of them.
Anyone who listens religiously knows we deserve it just a little bit.
So the movie's Born in the USA, and as the movie is now, it's a story about two people that essentially spend a day together, and connect over a day, and kind of commiserate in some ways, and just try to figure out, you know, what's going on with their own lives through this day together. That was actually the original concept for the movie, and originally, like, the premise for the film was an older guy spends a day with a younger Indian woman before she leaves the country, and we couldn't cast the woman,
Oh.
We tried about a year ago. We couldn't find either someone that was, good enough or fit the part or wanted to do it. We had a great actress that turned us down. She just didn't have time to do it. So what ended up happening was we adjusted the story to be like, all right, so maybe what do I have to start with? Like, what do we have going for us? I know a great actress, Kelly Lloyd, was in Wits End. She was in my short film Munza. Maybe I'll change it to it's about the wife in that situation, and she spends a day with somebody. So maybe it's her and a dude, and we'll also still have the older guy in the story, and we'll show a little bit of his side of the story. So we were making adjustments based on cast we had. And what ended up happening was that B story, which was about the older dude, ended up just getting cut completely. So like if you look at the movie as it is now, it's the original script. There's just a gender reversal. But yeah, we shot like a whole 30 or 40 minutes of the movie that just didn't work, and no fault of the actors, like they're all great, but yeah, there were some tough conversations and a lot of me a lot of me Facebook messaging John, like, you sure this is cool? Like, and well, that's like the other thing too, is like you learn to trust your instincts when you say, like, I think this is the right way to do it, and then everybody else is like, yeah, we knew that. Like, like, when I talked to John about, like, I don't think this is working, I think we should cut it, usually he was like, yeah, I think you should cut it. It was like actors in the movie like that I would talk to would be like, yeah, that didn't work, like, after the fact. So ultimately the movie became what it originally was and what it should be, and evolved into something else.
It's almost like you could make a separate short out of the stuff you cut. So maybe for the eventual Blu-ray or DVD release.
And I've thought about that, and even like in promoting the movie, like there's some isolated clips that really work well as scenes that I might share with folks. There's a lot of really good performances in there. The thing I'm proud of,
if I have to write score for that, that's when my rates go way up.
You have rates?
I know.
But
buy me a sandwich.
More pizza at the Finazzo house. But the thing that I'm happiest about in terms of the movie is it did turn out great in spite of what we cut. As painful as that was, but like I've tested the movie for like so many people over the last few months, and I would try to get people that had no idea what the movie was about, what the production was like, and no one's noticed that anything was missing, which is was my biggest worry. Like, are we gonna be watching the movie and the pacing's gonna be weird because we were supposed to cut to something else and didn't?
Right.
But no, this movie really works, wonderfully as an 85-minute, movie that's this intimate little, story. So
Sure.
Cool.
Like, I always wanted to make like a human story, and I think that what the movie ended up being was about two people, but to me, like, the third and fourth characters were your music in Baltimore. Like, I wanted to use that as like a character.
Was it in that order? Like, is he 3 or 4?
Yeah. He is now. As he's sitting
if he were in the room talking to Baltimore, he would have listed me after Baltimore.
But no, you're gonna fall on Dan Roderick.
Right, exactly.
Listen to that
I'll be
guy.
waiting. I'll be listening. You might have to buy me 2 sandwiches.
But no, I love the city we live in, and I think that for me, it's like to watch like what John Waters does. It's its own thing. And Barry Levinson did his own thing with Baltimore, and I just wanted to show a completely different side of it. So I tried to show landmarks of that, and those guys in The Wire didn't show. So and I think we did. Like I think we showed the more obscure stuff and just kind of like how beautiful our city is, and that was something like I always wanted to do. Like, to me, it's like even if we would have had a second story, we would have had definitely a score and kind of a backdrop that connected all these things, and it just so happened that ended up just being the backdrop and like the texture of the story we have now.
Cool. What this is a random technical question, what program did you edit in?
So on this, I edited on Final Cut.
Oh, cool.
I am a freelance editor. I use that and Premiere Pro.
Gotcha.
I edited Wits End and this movie on Final Cut Pro.
Because I think that, like, in general, I mean, since everything's so do-it-yourself, I mean, and that that didn't feel quite as accessible like 10 years ago. Not quite as accessible.
It's pretty awesome. There's no
Yeah.
excuse not to make your own stuff now.
Right,
Just to be, there was like a few times like I would go on vacation or stuff after, or something after we filmed the movie, and I would take my laptop with me and be editing off an external hard drive. So,
Wow.
so just the fact that you can do that, and the fact that you
nuts.
can shoot it on these DSLR cameras or even your phone, and edit on your laptop, it's pretty amazing. And
is.
it makes me wish that I was 10 years younger, so I could have started when this stuff came out. Instead, I had to wait for things to catch up a little bit. And now if you want to make a movie every year or every other year, there's no excuse.
Like if you have that excuse in your head of like, I've been trying,
Yeah,
and it's like,
yeah.
well, what is trying for you? Is it making the thing and finishing it and making it available to the world? Because that's what you
Right,
can do
right.
from your home now, as opposed to trying, meaning I've got ideas, I've been pacing around and writing
Right.
outlines. It's like, that's not trying when somebody's making a YouTube clip that
Sure.
gets 1 million hits and then they suddenly they have a name, so
Yeah.
I think, it is wide open as far as what you can produce. And there is, to say no excuse, it's actually true that there's no, unless you can't get your hands on a computer,
Yeah, I
there's
think
no
that-
reason not to be making your ideas and coming up with an idea that you can make.
Right.
And that's one thing I think that is consistent about both of your movies is that it's not like there's not ambition to it, but you do seem to be very interested in what's possible. What can I actually go out and shoot with
Yeah.
people? Rather than having a dream that's so big that it might make you take a few extra years to get it together or to realize that it's not going to work or
Right.
whatever. So
Yeah, I think I heard it was Jason Reitman, great director, was talking about it's like your MacBook Pro is a movie studio. You can write your movie, you can, shoot your movie with an iPhone, you can do all your post-production on your MacBook, and you can release it on your computer. Like it can do you can do anything at home. There's no reason not to do it. As far as what you were saying about the kinds of movies I make, I've always been interested in like these intimate stories. So I'm lucky. I have friends that, like Chris LaMartine is a friend of all of ours, and he's a great filmmaker. The scope of his movies are huge considering we're on this like micro budget level. So it takes, him, 2 years to make a movie or 3 years to make a movie just because like the concepts are so big and there's effects and all these, different factors that go into it. For me, it's like, I just like people talking. So I like the idea of like, even if like one of these movies takes off and I get a chance to make a bigger movie, it's going to be another movie like this, but maybe it'll have movie stars or recognizable actors in it. Like I don't see myself, setting myself up to make a Marvel movie or
you don't think
anything.
maybe you would have like an intimate two-hander where a ghost and a robot come to terms with each other and learn about each other?
I could see a version of that.
Because I have that script ready.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. But yeah, like I think I think I'm just in a good place in terms of like, if this takes off, great. But if not, I'm still going to be making these movies, and that's cool too. So, and I'm glad that we live in an age that can afford to do that and to, do it to where it's getting more and more polished. And I think it's going to be better 5 years from now too. So, I think that we. With like the DSLRs and the technology of just like making this stuff, it's just going to keep getting better. So I'm just looking forward to it.
Wow.
It's really cool.
I'm curious, so doing this every other year that you're currently on, what part of the years that you were spending doing Board in the USA were you actually shooting it?
So last summer we shot the bulk of the movie, and part of that was like this movie was a little bit longer, just in terms of actor availability.
Okay.
So we would shoot
Talk
like
a little bit about that too, because you lost an actor too.
Oh yeah. Well, that's so the ironic thing. The movie's about somebody leaving the country, and right after we finished filming, one of our actors got deported.
Oh,
It's like in the middle of you trying to get like some reshoots and some ADR,
Yeah, we were
so you had to make some calls based on that.
Yeah. Chris
Wow.
Milner got deported like right after we finished
He
shooting.
got deported?
He did. Yeah, he's in London now.
I would.
And the movie's
I
about him
legitimately
leaving
wondered
to go
what
back,
happened to
so
him.
that's what's crazy.
it's like,
Have you seen it?
this is like a revelation right now. Devon's like,
He's so funny, man. I was like, why haven't I heard from
Yeah,
this guy in
yeah.
a while?
Yeah, he. So to
It's the
answer-
best excuse ever. I got
I
deported.
got
Yeah.
deported.
And it's sad because
I
the
don't mean to
movie's
laugh.
painful for him to watch now because there's like so many
wow.
parallels kind of in the movie.
Jeez.
and his life. But yeah, so to answer your question, Steve, we started shooting like May of last year and shot about 18 days through the summer. It was spread out
Okay,
over a
that's
few
what I was
months.
curious about. Okay.
Which has its pluses and its minuses. Like I edit my own stuff, so it's like I like editing as we go along, and it gives me a chance to inform the movie in terms of if we shoot something, I can go, oh well, that's a great idea. Let's build on that, and we'll alter the next scene because I have an edited version.
Cool.
So yeah, we finished filming in October, I think, and then we did a reshoot in October. So yeah, we finished in the fall, and I've been editing kind of in the fall, winter.
Cool.
So
And totally harassing his score guy.
Yeah, I bet.
John and I have a great working relationship. I've never yelled.
No.
I really haven't. I don't know why I said it that way, but
Now I'm questioning it.
Yeah.
no, it's more of like, hey John, it's pretty good, but can we change this one note here because I'm anal. Sorry.
Well, what was funny for me was how much I said before it was about hanging out in that mood. There's like this lethargy or like an ennui to the character that there's I'm trying to not say bored.
Oh, yeah,
but
I
it's like
gotcha.
because that's in the name. But there's a boredom to this character that I found. It was like you don't want to make boring music, but you don't want to make music that's going to be too animated
right.
for this mood. So finding that space, and you had to keep telling me like, no. I want you right in that space. Like I would send him some, like, what about this? It's got a little tempo change and it's got this. And you would say, I really like the piano and the guitar on this one slow one here. And I was like, if I don't send him more stuff that's like this, he's going to use the same piece of music 10 times in this movie. And I just can't have, so it was funny trying to find out like how to do variations on a theme.
Right.
I mean, musically, it's actually kind of a fun experiment, but it was, I learned a little bit too about just how much innovation. I mean, for a score to be kind of chugging along, it does constantly repeat, and an idea will come back into it. And figuring out, like, normally if you're writing songs, if you've got 5 songs, you don't want them to be like each other. But in this case, the challenge was making them almost as alike as possible while not being the same thing. So yeah,
and meanwhile, you're just like, let me fly.
Yeah. But you would be like, this is great, I love it.
Yeah.
I'm going to try it out. And then 20 minutes later, don't hate me.
Yeah, I have a playlist on my phone of John's music that's cut from the movie, and I listen to it. It's great, but yeah, it's just there were times where it's like the movie does have like a certain melancholy, but also like a certain hopefulness and brightness that it's hard to capture in a score, especially when you're like the connective tissue. And part of it's about the mundanity of these characters and spending a day together. So it has to be kind of uniformed, and we always talked about having it be sparse, and everything it can't speed up or slow down too much. And you found the sweet spot in that, even though I know it's frustrating for you.
At first, it was frustrating, but it was fun. I mean, it's that fun kind of frustration where you're stepping a little bit outside of what you naturally do.
And you wrote an incredible title song for the movie. I love the song that plays over the credits that you wrote specifically for our movie. So it really was an honor working with you because it's so good.
Is the score coming out somewhere?
I was going to say, because so many things were cut from the movie too, I can have the music from and inspired by thing on the soundtrack album. So that'll be fun. Yeah, I think it'll be out. Based on when this episode comes out, it may already be available for people to check out on Bandcamp. I believe that's how I'm putting it out. So
yeah,
it'll be fun.
It's all, and it's cool.
It'll be if you play it, it'll put you in a nice board. Like, my life is dreary. I don't know. I don't like any of my choices. That kind of movie.
Like
it's really a great soundtrack to listen to when looking out the window and nothing in particular, and just kind of like hoping that things would be different, but knowing that they'll never be different. John Walker, everybody. No, it's. I think the cool experience for me with working with you doing the score was like Wit's End. Like, was intentionally a movie it's very documentary driven in the way it's all handheld, and I didn't want to have any score in that movie. Like from the beginning, it's like we're gonna drop songs into here, and I wanted to do something different. And that's when we became friends and started talking about collaborating on just stuff in general. And
I was trying to get you more into like a movie about wizards and that sort of thing, but he was
Baby steps, John.
yeah, man, we'll build up to that. We'll build up to people talking about wizards.
Yes.
but to have like an original score for our movie has just been like such an honor, and you just crushed it, man. I'm super proud of you too.
Oh, thank you. It was fun, and I look forward to seeing it. We were saying it premieres in the in the big theater at
Yeah,
the Senator,
yeah.
which is our local sort of legendary art house theater. So it is cool to see it. It'll be cool to hear it coming out of those speakers. That's going to be fun.
I'm so excited to watch it on the big. I'd be any screen at the Senator would have been awesome, but to do it in Theater One that high and have it sound that big is going to be really.
Have you
cool.
tried it out yet? Have you?
We tried it out. Today's Wednesday on Monday, so.
How'd it feel?
It was cool because I watched the entire movie by myself in the theater, which was like a surreal experience.
Right.
And like in a weird way, I just kind of enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Like I was like, this is for me. And when we do the screening in a few weeks, that's when I'll be anxious about everybody else enjoying it and what's not right and, turnout and all that stuff. But that was just like 80, minutes and change or 85 minutes of just enjoying that we made this thing, and to get to experience it by myself there was really cool.
Well, it's cool to be at that point where you can just enjoy it because you're like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to be making any more changes to it without pissing everybody off.
Yeah. That being said, I did make some small tweaks. And
I was waiting for it.
Jesus.
no, I did. Nothing's been moved or anything. But yeah, it was like small sound stuff that after you watch it in that big of a theater, you
Oh,
go
yeah.
back and
Oh, yeah,
adjust.
You need to do that, actually.
Yeah, I've watched this movie so many different ways, like thinking about like, all right, somebody's going to watch this on a laptop or an iPad or a TV, to do all these little versions of it, it definitely is a different experience when it's that big and blown up. And it was just like 2 or 3 sound things that I just wanted to tweak after watching it there. Yeah, that would have been great if after Monday I'm like, John, we need 20 more minutes of score,
Yes, right.
preferably by Friday.
Yes.
And
With a drum and bass feel,
Yeah.
if you can.
and could you play a British guy?
Yes, right.
I would have had a version where you and Ronald would have played Kelly and Chris, and
That works.
I think we've got chemistry.
Yeah.
We've
you
at least
do.
got,
Yeah,
there's like 200 hours of us proving that we have chemistry that people can listen to.
Oh, yeah.
yeah, and that's the cool thing about. And I'm sorry we're talking so much about our movie.
Mm-hmm.
I know everybody's like, talk about the slice of life stuff.
Yes.
But no, like I'm friends with all of you guys, so I feel like when I listen to the podcast, I'm just having a conversation with my friends and they're not listening. So it's cool to be here
Yeah.
and
Thanks for
actually
coming,
talk
man.
with you guys. Thanks for having me. So
I know that feeling listening to podcasts. I'm sure you guys do too,
yeah.
where you want to jump in. And it
Yeah.
bugs you that, like, I could have helped out with that one point
Right,
that they got
right.
stuck on or whatever. But
yeah, you're listening to Never Not Funny. And you're like, I had such a funny tag.
Yeah.
If only Jimmy Dore let me on the show.
Yes.
Yeah, or Jimmy Pardo. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you said before that you like movies where people talk to each other, and that's
Yeah.
like the main thrust of the action. And then we thought we would spend a little time just talking about those types of films,
Yeah.
and maybe us kind of go through. So we'll just go around and just talk about some of these. Just maybe put some listeners out on the case, where they can hopefully find some of these movies that are. Like I said, driven by dialogue, driven by natural interactions. We had some.
There's
discussion-
dialogue in the film.
Yes.
Got it.
Well, but driven like
Non-silent films.
that it's not leading up to fistfights and explosions. It's leading up to more talking.
Got
in
it,
a different
got it.
room. you know?
Fuck, I thought A Quiet Place was on my
there
list.
goes my list.
It's a slice of life
It is a
movie,
slice of
guys.
life.
It shows some farming.
Well, we went back and forth about what this means. Slice of life, naturalistic, dialogue-driven, mumblecore. There's so many different ways to approach it, but I think we all know what we mean when we say these are movies that are fueled by that kind of
Right,
human
right.
It's gonna be a fun list.
Yeah.
It's gonna be
It's
very.
gonna- trust me, it's
gonna
all
be
over the
varied.
place.
We're either going to have all of the same movie, or it's going to be just the weirdest hodgepodge of
Yeah.
stuff.
Well, let's get it started.
It's
You're our
definitely
guest. Why
the
don't you
last.
name one of your picks?
Okay, so my first pick, and I'm thinking about in terms of movies that kind of like inspire me and also inspire the types of movies I make. And I feel like my whole list could have been just Richard Linklater movies.
I thought you might choose the Before Sunrise trilogy.
So I intentionally did not.
Okay.
Just because
Damn, you got him.
No, but just because like, I think Before Sunset in particular really influences our movie, and I also just think it's a perfect movie. But I think he has like 10 movies out of his 20 that are what I consider slice of life movies. So I wanted to pick Dazed and Confused with my selection. I think it's a night in the life of some Texas teenagers. That's a slice of their lives, and I think it's relatable to everybody. I also think the movie's hilarious.
He's really good.
And I think the other cool thing about that is just whoever the casting director of that movie was.
Just a petri dish of talent.
Yeah, before
Wow,
and to have a lot of like McConaughey's first movie, and I think it's Ben Affleck's first movie or one of them, and like all these different actors that went on to do something else. So good, and you can also just see the growth of that was Richard Richard Linklater's second movie, and just kind of to show the versatility and all the greatness he had to come from there. So Dazed and Confused is my selection.
Yeah,
Cool.
good one.
I'll go next.
All right, we'll go this way.
Yes, let's go this way. So when we first started talking, great choice, by the way, Mike.
Thank
I
you.
love that film. I think my list is definitely way smaller. Like, I think I tried to make a mumblecore list from our first conversations.
Right.
So this is my selections of mumblecore films.
Yes.
The first one, Joe Swanberg is a pretty popular guy in that scene. Usually has films at the Maryland Film Festival here. We've been fortunate to meet him a couple times and to speak with him, and I'm a fan.
I sweaty danced with him at 2 a.m. at Joe Squared one night.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you
What?
go.
Yeah.
I like that guy, man.
His energy was insane. Like he's a star. Like when he's
Yeah.
I mean, he's like a high energy guy in the room, and he doesn't seem to mind people kind of glomming onto him.
That is
He's a
capable
good
of
dancer,
knocking
too.
people out, apparently.
I don't know that story. but-
Because remember, he knocked the critics out.
Oh yeah.
remember that?
Fantastic Fest.
Oh, shit.
Yeah,
Right.
Devin Faraci, who later turned
Same
out
guy.
to
Like, it's
right.
weird to think that that's the same dude, man.
Yeah.
Because like so much time has passed. But yeah, he beat the shit out of a critic.
Well, one of my favorite films that he has was I was able to see at the film festival. I think it was in 2013. His film with Jake Johnson and Olivia Wilde. It's called Drinking Buddies.
It's a good
That's
movie.
a good one.
My wife and I went and saw it. She loved it. I loved it. I like the idea of two people who really probably should be together, based off of decisions that they've made or are not making, are not together, and like seeing where they end up in the film, and still not being sure of if they made the right decisions. And you can obviously tell that they're not convinced still. I just love that movie. And I think watching Joe Swanberg's films kind of get bigger, and watching him work with like bigger actors and names and probably more of a budget, like that one seemed to be like kind of a step towards more like distribution and more mainstream access. And his partnership with Jake Johnson kind of starts with that film, and they've made some cool movies since then together, like Digging for Fire. And,
I like Digging for Fire a lot too.
And
yeah.
the one that was on Netflix last year, which almost made my top 10 with Jake Johnson as
Win
the,
It All.
Yeah,
Yeah,
as
that
the
was
gambler.
really good.
But just Drinking Buddies, I just think he really hit something with that relationship of like, just the idea of like always being around the person that you probably know you should be with and not being able to be with them. And just the situations that they get themselves in and how spiteful they are towards one another at certain points in that film. Yeah, just a big fan of that movie.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool thing about that movie is, so I don't know if you guys know, like Joe Swanberg's directed like literally like 30 movies.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I think it was like 7 movies in 1 year
Yeah,
at one
yeah, it's
point, because
crazy.
he's not that much older than, I think he's like 35. So,
Yeah.
but the first I heard of him, he did this movie Kissing on the Mouth, and there was an article about it in Movie Maker magazine, because it
It
was
was like
like
the start of this mumblecore thing,
yeah,
right?
and it was like $1,000
Yes,
movie. So
yes.
this was like predates like Netflix, and
He made it with his wife, right?
she's in it.
She's
Yeah, the
in it,
lady
okay.
became his wife. So I actually
Chris.
bought that movie because there was no other way to get it.
Wow.
And it was like the most pretentious, boring movie.
Yeah.
And I would get so frustrated and irritated that he'd be at the Maryland Film Festival every year. But because I'm just like, really? Like the dude literally, like, spoiler alert, his first movie is literally, there's a scene where he jerks off until he finishes in the
Wow.
movie, and it shows everything.
Wow.
And I'm like,
Oh
this
my
is
God.
pornography, and not even well lit pornography. But so
I like the idea of criticizing something as being pornography,
Yeah.
but then bring that angle in.
Yeah.
And it's not even good pornography.
that reminds me of the line in Superbad where Jonah Hill's like, "I'm sorry the Coen brothers didn't direct your porn." But no, with Joe Swanberg stuff, it's been really cool to actually start with that and see how he just kept refining and refining and refining. And I really love his last few movies, and I really like his Netflix series Easy. It's very
so
good.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's on a roll where he's like, written and directed like 3 great movies with Jake Johnson, and
Yeah.
his series is great. So it's just cool to see somebody who is like a contemporary and we're around the same age, and just to see them continue to grow and, kind of, he's not really doing stuff that's that different. Like it's less like risque or whatever. And, but it's tonally and stuff. He hasn't changed that much, but he's definitely evolved.
Totally agree. Yeah.
So good choice.
Thanks, man.
All right. Well, my choice is, this is one of those that does not fit into the sort of low budget concern of a mumblecore film, but it does have the slice of life and the reality and the relatable characters. And it's a movie that I often think, whenever I think about this show, and I'm sure we've talked about it on the show before, but I've often thought, like, I hope we have a category so that I can talk about how great I think You Can Count on Me is.
Oh, wow.
As a film. And I mean, Mark Ruffalo, I think that was really the first time I noticed him, and I was at the apex of my Laura Linney love at that moment, and this was such a great performance for her. But just the naturalistic relationship between the two of them, I don't know, was it based on a stage play? I know Lonergan, the writer and
Not
director.
sure.
No, I
Kenneth
think that was
Lonergan,
his first screenplay.
Okay.
I don't think it was a
But
play.
he was a
it
playwright
very easily
before,
could
wasn't he?
be a play, too. But yeah, and he was. And he's written a bunch of great plays since then and
So
before then.
it's got that feel of
Right.
like, you know, people in a room having these interactions that feel true. Here's the sister who's always going to be the stable one, and here's the brother who's always going to be the mercurial one. And it's like there's a dance between the two of these characters, and she's stuck in a rut, and she's got this awful boss that she's having an affair with, and she's got a son who's kind of lacking a father figure, and all these things are going on in her life, and it's sort of like the last thing she needs is her fuck up brother coming in, but in a weird way that's like exactly what she needs, and she kind of wants him around. And the tragedy for her that he's going to inevitably leave no matter what he says about he's going to stick around or he's going to be part of their lives. That back and forth, it's just a very effective film. It keeps the drama small, and it does kind of go out into some interesting places. But in the end, it's a very, just a very truthful film, I thought.
Really good movie, yeah.
You Can Count on Me from 2000.
So mine is a movie that was shot entirely on a iPhone.
Oh.
2015's Tangerine by Sean Baker.
Yes.
Man, so I mean, I like slice of life stuff, but I like slice of life stuff, especially when I don't know anything about a world. And this was a movie that kind of gets you right into this world of like trans. There's like some prostitution going on, some heavy drug using, but it doesn't do it from a perspective of like, they don't want you to feel sorry for these people,
Or judge them.
Or judge them. Yeah, like this could happen to anyone. This set of circumstances. You date, you know, a friend that dates somebody that's crazy or has in the past, and it's just it is a roller coaster from beginning to end.
And it's so funny.
It's so funny, and you know that.
And it's a good looking film too. The
Yeah.
iPhone thing is almost would make you think that there's no visual style to it, but it has a real panache.
It does. It really does. And I mean, I have to be completely honest. Like, I was under the impression that this movie would make me uncomfortable. It's just a world that I'm not privy to. But I realized just being in performance sort of community, I was a lot more prepared for this movie than I thought. You know what I mean? So I watched, I'm like, oh, okay, this is regular.
Right,
I mean,
right.
but you know, I thought it was a really well made movie, and the main character, Cindy, is. I mean, this is supposed to be this actor's first time doing something.
A non-actor, right?
Non-actor.
Yeah, he does a great job. Sean Baker does like such a good job with working with like first time actors. I felt that way about Florida Project too.
I was gonna.
One of the I think that's the best child actor performance of all
I've ever
time.
seen.
It's so good.
And it's so great how Willem Dafoe's performance kind of blends in. Like you do
Yeah.
recognize him as a guy with star wattage in that movie,
Exactly.
but he's doing a remarkable job of not standing out, and like his interplay, like that scene in the lobby when the kids are eating the popsicles and he's just kind of like that felt so like this guy is not the savior of these people, and I think that was a key part of this movie is that it was almost like the trailer sold it like Willem Dafoe's character was going to be this kind of white savior, but instead he's just a guy trying to do a job, and he makes some decisions that are like morally questionable in the movie. So
And again, kind of captures a world that you wouldn't typically know with a lot of empathy, like in Tangerine, and just a really, really great movie. I also like, and you were talking about the look, John. I like that one movie shot on an iPhone and one movie shot on 35 millimeter film, and they're both beautiful in such different ways. Pretty remarkable.
Definitely.
All right, so your next pick, Mike?
All right, my next pick, this actually is a mumblecore movie. Big influential movie I made. The Duplass brothers have been making really good films for the last, I guess since 2005. And this movie, I saw randomly a trailer right when iTunes and Apple were starting to put out trailers for movies where you could, see them really easily. And this movie, weird look, shaky handheld cameras, awkward sound, but the most relatable performances that I had seen at the time. The movie's The Puffy Chair, made for $10,000. It got their career started. They pretty much own indie Hollywood now. But yeah, this movie was, I remember like thinking like my parents probably watched The Graduate and were like, these people are like me or in a place like me and talk like me. And that's kind of how I felt about Puffy Chair. So that movie's a little bit of a seminal movie for me. I think all their stuff's actually on Netflix now because of their deal with them. So
cool.
Next one I picked is I don't know if many people have seen it. I've talked about it on the podcast before, but in my research for the genre of mumblecore, I come across a subgenre called mumble gore.
Yes.
So I tried to find a film that qualified as such, because just to give some horror love. And there's a movie from 2012 that I legitimately love called The Battery.
Oh, wow.
Directed by Jeremy Gardner. Did you ever see it?
Yes.
We talked about this.
Yes.
The two friends that are kind of like surviving this zombie apocalypse.
That was Mumble Gore?
It's called Mumble Gore.
Yeah.
Horror film, basically just following two guys talking as they survive this apocalypse.
Yeah.
There's really no zombies in the movie until like the last like 15, 20 minutes. But it's basically these two friends that have survived this apocalypse. They were baseball teammates, and they're in a car trying to go down through New England to just survive. And I don't know, I just remember watching the movie and like totally buying their friendship, totally buying how different the two friends were, how one was trying to change the other to what they thought the survival skills they needed to adapt, and vice versa. And you know, there's just elements of like trust and survival and drive and all these things that I'd assume you'd be challenged with in a zombie apocalypse, but in this idea of like just a view of two people talking to one another, getting through it, and you know, and coping with it in the different ways that they decide to. But the thing that I took away from the most was just really buying their friendship, but it's like it's a forced friendship because like they're not really truly friends.
Circumstances threw them
exactly
together.
Like they were teammates and they're like buddies, but like, would I have chosen you to survive this with?
It's like
and
when
be
two
on a
people
road
on a
trip?
sitcom get trapped in an elevator and one of them's pregnant, and maybe these two characters don't get along, but you know, in this episode they're going to have to learn to work
That's
together.
what it is, exactly.
I really like the mumblecore television program Family Matters.
Yeah.
No, that was one that came up in my research too, Steve. And having not seen it, I just thought the stills that I saw from it looked really cool.
It's really weird. Like it is great. Like I love that film, and I've recommended it to people that actually went through and found it or saw it, or I, you know, kind of showed them where they could watch it. Everybody's really liked it. I mean, we talked about it a while years ago on the podcast, but like, it's just weird because it's like it relies so light on the zombie piece. They're in there.
Yeah,
it's there, but it's subtle, and it's more just about like, it's the opposite of like the Walking Dead kind of zombie thing, you know, where like there's all this drama and just the thing that you almost are getting bored by is the zombie.
Yeah.
At least when I left that show.
Well, too much zombie makes it a little boring. You're right.
Yeah, and this is the opposite of that, where it's just like, just the idea of like, you think you know everything, and we talk like, how would you survive? Okay, I would, but you're wrong. So eventually it comes to that point where like we're forced to be together. We're like, we have to do one of these two things, and I'm sure that I'm right. And there's a lot of really, really cool scenes with these two friends, like, and how different they are, and how they're trying to survive. It's just, and some of their exchanges are really funny. And in the middle of this little zombie movie, it's great. And
That's awesome.
it was made for like nothing. I don't know what the guy's done. I mean, it won some festival awards, and it did have like a little bit of love, which is kind of what popped it up on my radar when I was like following some of the festival awards that had gone out that year, and just tracked it down. And it's worth checking out. I mean, for sure. Like if you are even into the horror stuff of it, even though it's light, just the setting is kind of cool. But yeah, it's called The Battery.
Well, I'm glad you went ahead and sort of positioned what mumble gore is, because that was my next pick was going to be my mumble gore selection. I was intrigued at how many movies are in that category that I was surprised to see were being considered.
I think there's one that
mumblecore,
both wondered
or
about.
mumblegore, and there's one that just seems too nicely made and not mumble enough to really fit in that. But anyway, of the movies that were categorized as mumblegore, there's one that I love, but I don't think it really fits this whole dialogue-driven thing.
What is that one?
That would be House of the Devil.
Okay.
But The movie that that I thought I was surprised to see on the list was The Invitation. That was popping up on all the.
Oh, interesting. I really like that movie, but I would never have.
Right.
Yeah. Right?
I mean, it's people.
Your
talking.
next was also on that list.
Yes, but the one I've chosen is definitely mumblecore, and it's definitely mumblegore, and it's a movie from 2014 called Creep.
Oh, that's a. I
thought Creep was great,
That's
and
'cause that was
Duplass love.
it's super unsettling, and it does have that kind of two-hander thing. It's a dark version of My Dinner with Andre kind of thing. You know, it's
because
like,
it's about the relationship between the two guys. Yeah,
but it has these shocking moments, and it's punctuated by the horror that is extra surprising coming from Mark Duplass, who we just don't associate with that kind of thing. So I felt like it was a cool. I mean, maybe he can only do that once or twice in his career, but it was a cool extension of that mumblecore brand and that kind of character he normally plays. To say, wait, what if you were in a storyline like this, where it's just you and another person, and it's this intimate kind of filmmaking that makes it feel real, like you're a fly on the wall, and it's also pretty scary. It got me to realizing how much, and you were saying how the zombies weren't a big part of the battery, that horror and mumblecore, horror movies have to kind of save their budget for the big scares. And so they usually do, to say there's not that much zombie action in that movie, most effective horror films do a good job of that, of just having it punctuated. So I like that idea of the interpersonal relationship in Creep, and the way that just the unsettling, it keeps getting worse and worse for this guy who has been called out to film a man's life, essentially. And I wouldn't want to say much more about it than that. I think we've talked about it on the show before. But it's a really good movie, and it really makes use of the simplicity and the lack of elements. It just is a simple thing between two people.
Have you seen Creep 2?
I haven't seen Creep 2 yet.
I actually think it's better.
I agree with
I love both of them, too, and I think the second one's better. I think it's actually funnier, and it's even darker in spots.
I gotta see it.
Yeah, and I actually think...
He's so good in it.
He really is.
He really is.
And he's become... Yeah, Mark Duplass. And I even think, because, he was the star of Puffy Chair, which, I mentioned earlier. And kind of like Joe Swanberg, to see him grow into a really good, effective actor. In Puffy Chair, he's essentially playing himself. And then in Togetherness, he gives such a good and different performance. And in Creep, it's like from another planet.
He's taking whatever that currency is that he's built up and spending it on this on creeping you out, because you don't expect him to creep you out. So fun film. Yeah.
Cool. Before she was problematic, there was Lena Dunham.
Yes.
Tiny Furniture. Such a goddamn good movie. It's a slice of life film about this small community of artsy, rich, sort of privileged people living in this bubble and surviving on everybody else's resources. And it's, I mean, while that sounds like a pretentious, shitty thing, she captured this sort of thing that wound up becoming the kind of bones of whatever Girls is. This story in particular is just a really well told one, that feels authentic, that feels refreshing, because I don't know anything about it, and it may be more familiar to the New Yorker, because I guess there's something about what New York represents to people versus the people that are actually there. You know what I mean? It's like this, you gotta go there, but the people that are there are like, fuck this place, I love this place, fuck this place, and you hear this balance that happens all the time. And Lena is very, I mean, for whatever problems you have with her, she's pretty aware of her surroundings. She's pretty aware of who she is, and there's something about someone that was so young and made such a aware movie for her age. Did you remember how old she was when she made it?
She was 23.
Yeah,
insane.
She was just out of Oberlin. Yeah.
Let's get into our last round. What's your final pick, Mike?
Last movie. I love this movie a lot. And I think my favorite thing about these types of movies, and when they're most effective, is kind of like what you're talking about with relationship with friends in movies, or the way people talk to each other is I love it when a movie is not made about me, where the characters on the surface are nothing like me, but you still see yourself in the characters and the situation. Like Moonlight was a movie that was like that for me, where I'm not a gay black man from Miami, but I saw myself.
Your publicist assured us that you were.
That's how I got booked. But for like that movie, it's like I definitely saw myself in those situations and in those characters. A more recent movie that I felt like this. Greta Gerwig's Lady Bird is a movie about a 17-year-old high school senior, which I'm not. But the whole time I'm watching this, I could see myself in the relationship between her and the mother. I could see myself in that awkwardness and trying to make friends or relating to the high school situations of it. And the movie's hilarious and it's heartfelt as well. And it was one of the movies I thought of for this list, and I thought it was pretty fitting.
Yeah, cool. That's a good choice. I agree. It's a very entertaining movie, very well made, but it is full of little true moments, whether it's your reality or not. You know,
particularly the Laurie Metcalf stuff and the Tracy Letts stuff. Which
Tracy Letts, yeah.
You and I both talked about that. Like, how is no one talking about how good Tracy Letts is in this movie? Yeah. But very effective movie in that way.
My last one is came out in 2014. Stars Jenny Slate and Jake Lacey, Julian Robespierre's Obvious Child.
That's a good one.
I don't know. I really love Jenny Slate, and I really love seeing her in a movie, even though she's a stand-up comedian in the film. Like it's not about her being funny in the movie, and it's about a pretty serious subject matter that comes up that someone is pretty confident and very quick to a decision about.
Yeah,
and just that relationship that isn't between her and Jake Lacey, and even though she knows what she wants to do, situations like when they're together in the movie and she wants to tell him what's happening, but then she reads like that he's kind of wants to be a parent eventually, or I think he says he wants to be a grandfather one day.
Yeah. And
like that stops her from telling him to like not hurt him. I don't know. It's just like a really cool relationship drama that is also funny. And like to say a movie about abortion is funny is like it comes out odd, but I mean it genuinely is a funny film.
It is,
and she's great in it. And the scene towards the end where he actually takes her to Planned Parenthood and they talk about it being the best Valentine's Day ever, and it's like on it's either on Valentine's Day or on her mother's birthday that she has to book this thing, and it's that day, and they end up together, and he takes her and is there, and they end the movie watching Gone with the Wind. It's just a weird situation, a weird series of events. A one night stand leads to something very, very huge in somebody's life to decide on, and that character, at least her performance as that character, knowing that it was not the right thing for her to take on at that point in her life, which she was at a pretty low point, is pretty smart, and it's pretty bold and confident, and that kind of character I think was really good for her to be able to play, because I like her a lot, but it's been a lot of silly characters that I've liked her as.
The seashell,
and like her run on Parks and Recs and stuff like that, like. But I don't know. I just really loved Obvious Child. I just connected with how confident she was in that decision, but not confident of who she was in her life. And it was a weird thing to watch and to also laugh at.
Wonderful movie. And I wouldn't have thought of that for this list too. That is like after you've explained it, I'm like, that's pretty perfect.
Yeah,
it
it seemed appropriate. And I don't know if you guys saw last year, Jillian, she had a film come out called Landline. Mm-hmm. Did any of you guys check it out?
No, I didn't, but I heard things about it.
I did.
I thought it was pretty good too, man. I don't know. I'm excited to see what else she does. I mean,
I thought it was pretty good.
What else she puts out? I mean, Jenny's in that too, but like so's John Turturro and Edie Falco.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
I just like the stories that she tells, and her casting is always really spot on. And Jake Lacey is a guy like I see pop up in a lot of places as an actor, and I don't know what his thing is or what his like niche is, but I really liked him in Obvious Child. And I was he in Girls?
He was for a little bit
with Lena about the Lena.
Yeah. He was a teacher towards the end.
That's right.
Oh. Yeah.
That's right. But I know I see him a lot of random places, and he's never really, I guess, caught on.
When she moved to like...
He was in like the Rampage movie this summer, like a really fucking random, horrible role that he's in, but I really like him in Obvious Child, because like he's not like the best guy in the world, but he's also like not an asshole.
You also get that they have chemistry too in that movie, very naturally. And she's, I like Jenny Slate in general as like a comedic actress, but to see her in that movie in Landline, where she's basically playing like a real human as opposed to like a caricature for comedy, like I feel like she did on Parks and Rec, which is hilarious on.
What is John Ralphio's sister's name? I can't remember.
I just know it's Ben Schwartz's sister on the show. I can't remember her name.
God, those.
They are so good together on that show.
And it's just
I go down like a YouTube rabbit hole sometimes watching their scenes on that
So
show.
good.
When they just like sing those songs and like, oh god, they're so good. Give me money. She's so good. Oh yeah, and Duplass is in Landline. The other Duplass, Jay,
who's become a great actor.
Yeah,
He's
man.
so good on
Yes.
Transparent.
I like him in everything. I see him, I'm like,
They're
there's a
everywhere.
pleasant face.
Yeah. So what do you got, John? What's your next one?
My final pick, and this is kind of bringing it around. I was hoping I could go for like a Laura Linney festival, but I didn't quite manage that. But my first film was a Laura Linney film, and this film is also features her and Jeff Daniels as a couple of parents that are.
I knew you were gonna pick this.
Oh, you did! Awesome! I love it.
Dude.
I love it when I fit type. You know.
Which
But
one?
the
I got
Squid
a
and the
note
Whale.
right here.
Great movie.
Also ran Squid and the Whale,
Yeah.
2005. But John will pick.
Awesome. Sometimes we like it when we're predictable on this show because it means everything's kind of fitting
It's also
together.
an opportunity to say another film.
Yeah, right.
You know.
But no, the Squid and the Whale is like, it's so uncomfortable.
It is.
And yet it manages to be funny and make you care about the characters and notice the humanity of all the characters, and you recognize what the parents are going through and you recognize what the kids are going through. But it's these two authors, and Jeff Daniels plays a really egotistical blowhard who is really kind of pushing his family away, and he's kind of a toxic influence on his sons because of his attitudes about women, and he would never realize that. And the mother has just kind of started making her life a second separate life outside of her marriage because she's so unhappy and unfulfilled in it. And the kids are maybe kind of in the position of sort of idolizing their dad, or they're at that age where they haven't yet seen who he really is or what's going on. And so it's just about this ugly situation where their parents are kind of playing the kids against the other parent, and the kids are going through their own way of dealing with it. And everybody has some sad, uncomfortable, true feeling moment that is also funny when you look at it from another angle. So in a sense, it's kind of like the Uber Baumbach film in a way.
That's my favorite movie of his. It's so good.
But yeah, it's just like the way that it approaches the artistic temperament and kind of like demystifies the idea of the genius and what it would be like to have a genius for a father. I think that's it's like a cautionary tale for any creative person, to see that guy, because he's past his prime, but he's really in denial about it.
Right.
And also, this was the first film that I saw Jesse Eisenberg in, and he's already playing that awkward, alien, hard to get into his head kind of character. I thought he was great too.
We
And of
call it
course, Laura Linney.
Asperger's, John.
Yes.
But he's in another movie that was, I think it was his first movie before that, was Roger Dodger. Have
So
you guys
good.
heard that? It's great. Campbell
Campbell
Scott's
Scott, I
brilliant in
love that movie.
But yeah, I definitely feel like Squid and the Whale is like a refined version of that. And it's very good to kind of like capture a pretentious teenager. And I like how they deal with him plagiarizing The Who.
Yeah.
I love that song.
I also love
Is it
Billy
The Who?
Baldwin
It's
in
Pink
that
Floyd.
movie.
Pink Floyd.
Yeah.
Pink Floyd.
Oh, I thought it was Behind Blue Eyes. No, it's Hey. You know what? I'm
Hey
thinking
You.
about
Yeah.
originally it
Yeah.
was going to be Behind Blue Eyes.
okay.
And they couldn't get the rights
Wow.
to it. It was Hey You.
That seems great. Did you write
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I wrote that.
And yeah, like Anna Paquin, like knows what's going on with
Yeah.
him, but doesn't call him out. But yeah, and I love the supporting cast with that. It's Kevin Kline and Penelope, or Phoebe Cates' son is the youngest one in that
Oh,
movie.
wow.
Billy Baldwin's brilliant in that movie. Anna Paquin's great. That's a wonderful movie.
Yeah.
It is.
It's a really good choice. I was very smart.
Yeah.
You were right on top of it, man.
You were even smarter to know that I would pick it. Sometimes it seems like you and I do that more. I think because Ronald often is making his list like on the way here.
Yep.
But Steve and I often have this little game that we play with each other where it's like, I want to say this, but I'm pretty sure
Sure, John.
Steve's going to say it.
so I can
I'll
get another
gamble. Yeah,
choice
right,
in
yeah.
if John says it.
Yeah.
That is my favorite part of the show, is when you guys are doing these these categories, and then like the third choice that I hear Ronald say, "I misunderstood the category. I thought we were doing movies about pie, or whatever." And that's my
Every
favorite
time,
part
man.
of the show.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Well, bring it
Very
home.
true. Okay, so I raved about this movie 3 years ago. It's a German movie shot between the hours of 4:30 and 7 a.m. 4:30 a.m., 7 a.m. It is Victoria.
Oh, dude, it's so good.
Continuously shot movie that had 3 attempts.
Never seen it.
And the third one turned out to be the one that they actually wound up making the final version. It is.
So it's 2.5 hours long.
No, it's about an hour and a half. These were the attempts. The attempts. The third attempt actually was done kind of on the whim. They were just like, "Hey, you got to do it. This is the last one."
And it's not like Birdman where they're faking it as one shot. It's
one shot.
all one take.
Most of the dialogue is improv. It's fucking insane. And so it's
what's the plot of it?
It's basically one woman, Victoria, meets a group of guys, and one's very charismatic. And she kind of falls into the fold of everything that they're doing. And then it escalates really quickly. It gets fucking insane. And the weird part about it is, like, it kind of, the scale of it gets weird. So, like, there's, like, these wide shots that are just them walking around and talking. And that's, like, 5 minutes. And then it gets really small and big. And it happens like that kind of throughout the movie. And when it picks up, the shots get a lot tighter. And the action kind of picks up. I don't even know how they did some of the scenes because, like, I don't want to give anything away.
They're like going in and out of clubs, and in and out of hotels,
like
and on the street and on a roof at one point.
Whole sessions in a club, like dancing in a club, talking to each other, going out of the club, all in one swoop. And I don't get it on any level. But it is one of the coolest movies I've ever seen in my life. Wow. And I think that anybody that's like into any sort of like, it's a feat. It is a feat. I mean, like, you feel it too. Like you see some things like, what's the one about the 3 periods where the kid, the boyhood. You know, I mean, that was a great movie, but you don't feel it quite as much as you do with what kind of feat this movie is. Like, you really feel it as it goes along. Like, they go on the roof of an apartment building. It
sounds really cool.
It keeps going, and it doesn't get dull. Like, these characters are really pretty compelling, and I've watched it like 4 or 5 times, and I always notice something different. Like, when the action picks up, there's just a lot going on in the background, and if you don't pay attention, like, some of the stuff is very shocking. But yeah, Victoria is like one of my favorite movies.
And the way it's shot too, it makes everything that much more lived in and real.
It's awesome. There are parts that are like really static, and then there's a lot of shaky cam. Like, there's a lot of like, because they go into a convenience store and there's like stealing in that, and it gets like very like, oh. It's a cool ass movie, man.
What is it? What does the camera do?
Is there any of that on board in the USA?
Yeah. It needs it, honestly.
Did you pick that technical
with your hands in the scene?
You know what? There's still time.
I sense a new cut coming. Yeah, right. John, get working.
All right.
We're going to be up.
We're going to add in 30 minutes of Ronald going, and just intersperse it in the movie.
You just transition. Fade. Yeah. But yeah, really cool movie, man.
It's a cool movie.
Never heard of it.
Also on Netflix too.
Also on Netflix?
Yeah.
Cool.
That girl's blowing up. The Victoria. She's in a movie, Newness, the Drake Doremus movie. The guy who did like Crazy.
The Devin Nunes story.
Right.
It's and she's in Duck Butter too. That just came out.
I just grabbed Duck Butter and haven't watched it yet. The cover is intriguing me.
Yeah, like the painting.
It's like a
grabbing Duck
pieces.
Butter sounds like a euphemism for something.
It does.
I'm glad you said it.
There's actually a restaurant in Towson called Truffle Butter, which is the. I mean, look it up.
We've had this conversation before. I think on the podcast, and you blew my mind, and I never felt more out of touch.
Why would you call a business that? I mean, I love the business. I'm just saying, like, why would you call it?
It could have been me. I wouldn't have known. I mean, I don't know.
Oh man, Truffle Butter.
Everybody out there, look it up,
please.
So, Mike, tell us about the premiere. This is a good segue.
They call it professional segue.
Well, we're wrapping things up. So, yes, we didn't mention the date. We didn't mention all the deets.
June 7th, the Senator Theater, 7 o'clock. Buy your tickets in advance because they're way cheaper to do that. And also, I set this up for your podcast listeners. Use the promo code Bran Muffins, and
that's his nickname for me.
I call John Johnny Bran Muffins, and I could, even though it's usually
What's the backstory of that?
It just felt right to him.
Yeah, it did feel right. and my wife actually.
Plus, he heard about my super efficient colon, and he was just like, "This guy."
Yeah, I don't know.
Must be the
I started
brand
calling you Johnny, and then it was Johnny Bram Muffins, and then my wife's like, "Please stop calling him that." To where she's like annoyed for you all the time.
So you'll just text me, Branny.
Yeah. I do. I'm as annoying as I sound right now. But yeah, promo code Bram Muffins. Yeah, you'll get a discount on your tickets.
Cool.
Yeah, it's 10 in advance and 15 at the door, but you'll get a bigger discount. So it's essentially half off if you use the promo code than if you would have bought it at the door.
Nice.
Holy.
So yes, if you're a Baltimore area listener, and I know we have more than a few of those. It's the Senator.
Yeah.
It's a night out at the theater.
John will be there.
Yes.
Get your picture
I guess
taken
that's
with
true.
him.
If I have-
Wow.
This is actually pretty bad if I have any stalkers. Do you think I've said anything that's pissed anybody off over
I
the
hope
years?
not, man. I don't think so, though.
John, it's really too late for us to start worrying.
Yeah,
about
that's
this.
true.
Yeah.
That's true.
If we were going to get shot, it was going to happen.
Yes.
By now.
So what's the theater one seat?
Way more than we're going to sell. It's like 600.
Okay, that's what.
Oh, wow.
So I'm
Crazy.
not. Well, actually, I shouldn't have said that. It's going to sell out. So buy your tickets in advance. Yeah, we just moved. The second theater's too small. It's 140, and we were going to sell out plus, so we moved it
wow.
to the big theater.
Cool.
Cool, man.
So
That's
yeah.
great.
Yeah.
I should have waited for the promo code. I already bought my ticket.
You used the promo code.
I did,
Yeah,
I
so
did.
it worked out for you.
Oh, good. I got a better one. I
Yeah,
bet.
I did a 1 day only promo code for Star Wars Day, where it was
Ah.
$5.40 to buy a ticket.
Oh,
so
nice.
Wow.
Steve jumped on that.
No me.
Yeah.
Gotta get that coupe.
If there's a bargain online, Steve
Yeah.
has like an alert.
I got alerts set up. Like Mike Finazzo coupon code.
I was gonna say
Alert.
I got the notification before I even posted it anywhere, and I was like, how did he know?
Steve changed the way that I travel.
That's what I do, John.
You
change. That's it.
You do,
nice
man.
segue.
You changed. Thank you, man.
How
Guys.
so?
I
Well,
want to
first off,
go.
he travels now.
Yeah.
That's a start.
that's one thing. I was trying to go somewhere, and Steve stopped me and said, "Hey, stupid, don't travel like that. This is how I travel. There are a bunch of blogs that have like discounted, you know, and I'd like gone to like flight deal blogs before, but like I hadn't found like one that was really good. And he kind of put me on to like Wow Air to travel to Europe, and I've been like, I had a bug.
Gone twice since, haven't you?
Yeah, thank you.
And thank you for the coupon code you give our listeners.
Yeah,
Oh, no
seriously,
problem.
man.
I guess I
Brand
should.
muffins.
Brand muffins.
Yeah, and go to.
Plural.
I guess I should have said where you go to buy the tickets.
just
Yes.
type it in
You
the
just,
Google.
you just Google brand muffins. It'll come up.
yeah.
It's like a little breadcrumb trail. You follow the crumbs of brand
Alexa,
muffins.
play brand muffins.
boardintheusafilm.com. It'll take you right to the ticket site. Bram Muffins is the promo code, and hopefully, I think you guys will probably post a link with the episode.
Yes.
Oh
hopefully.
yeah,
We
definitely.
haven't agreed on that. We'll discuss it.
Yes.
but-
Let's see how the ice cream's made, guys. Let's discuss it.
No, that's great, man. Yeah, we happy to help you promote
Awesome.
the
Thanks.
premiere.
Yeah.
Anybody listening that wants to go support local filmmakers, you got to get out there and support Mike. I'm super excited. You sent me a link to watch the film. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
lie to you. I haven't had a chance to
It's all
watch
right,
it yet,
man.
but the fact that you're at the Senator, I really want to see it with a
Yeah.
crowd. I really
Thanks,
want to
man.
see it on the screen. It's a huge accomplishment for you. Super proud of you, man. Like,
Thanks, buddy.
Number one, that's amazing.
I
You're at the
appreciate
Senator
that.
Theater. Not many local filmmakers get to do that.
Right.
Let alone people at all. But
Yes.
thankfully, I know one now, and you'll be there, and I'll be there to help celebrate, and hopefully, some of our listeners can join us.
Are you gonna take a picture where you're like under the marquee pointing up or something like that?
I hope they put it. They did that for Bump Fest. They put it on the marquee, so I hope they do that this time. I hadn't really
Really
thought
cool,
about that,
man.
but yeah, if they
You need
do.
to make that happen, man.
Yeah, please do,
big.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a
I hope-
forever photo.
Yeah.
You
seriously.
guys brought it up. Now I'm going to be disappointed if it doesn't happen.
Oh.
I'm sure you can make it happen.
Yeah.
The guy's really nice over there, so I think they probably will.
Yeah.
But they did, for Bump Fest they did it all week.
But yes.
June 7th.
June 7th, boardintheusafilm.com.
Is any other filmmakers locals playing before yours?
Thank you. Yeah, so instead of trailers, we're going to show
Such a
2
pro,
local
Steve. Such a
short
pro.
films. Thank you, Steve. Bob Rose and Max Levine, 2 Baltimore guys, have really quirky, funny short films. So instead of 18 minutes of the new Gabrielle Union trailer, we're going to get 2 local filmmakers.
Tough decision to make, but I think you made
And Bob
the right
Rose
one.
is a friend of the show who's been on the show. So
Absolutely.
yes,
I-
I feel like we quote him every episode.
I
or
always
so.
look forward to when you take questions or Facebook post
Yes.
comments, because I know
He's got
that he
great
will
ones.
have
He
stuff.
will go
Yeah.
nuts. I'm a huge fan of Max Levine. I've done something for one of his shorts before. I'm a big fan of
Was
Max.
it seafood?
It was the invitation. Damn, not the invitation. Forget the name.
That
of
Mumblegore classic.
it. Yeah, Jesus Christ, man. I was in it.
Okay.
It's like starring in it.
I think the juxtaposition
So
between these movies is going to be fun.
Yeah.
Like it's a good bill. It's like I love that the theme is local filmmakers.
Yeah.
and otherwise there's there's no theme. You know.
Yeah, I mean it's
Well, maybe two-handers is Max's a two-hander.
yeah, I guess like with both of their films, like Bob's movie's a little broader and just like quirky fun. It's
insane,
actually his
yeah.
most accessible movie that he's showing.
And yet still insane.
Yeah, it's still bananas. But Max is definitely, it's a little weirder, it's a little quirkier, but it's also like one of those movies. It's not really a comedy, and it's not really a drama. It also has stand-up comedy in it, and we have stand-up comics in our movies, so I think there's enough of a tie in there. But it really is just like a celebration of local film, and yeah, especially like with Max, because he's a little bit younger. His dream is to play at the Senator. So, the fact that we can help make that happen, like I'd rather do that
Hell
than
yeah, that's great.
Yeah,
And
The
that all starts
promotion.
at 7?
That's the name of it. Sorry.
the promotion.
The promotion is the name
Is that
of
when
it.
you're driving in the car?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
That's Max Levine's.
Oh, okay.
That was
cool.
good.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah,
Thanks,
you
man.
were good in that.
You were very good in it. I'm
Thanks,
being
man.
serious in general.
I am
Really?
too.
I mean, like
Yeah.
you really were.
Thank
Yeah.
you, man. I like
I knew.
Max.
I remember how excited you were about it, and I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh God, I'm gonna watch this. I gotta be
And
honest with
fucking hate
Ronald." I was like, "No, dude, you're a good guy.
Thanks,
in
man.
many ways." So I mean,
I know that Steve was really trying to compliment you, but that
Did
is
not
like,
sound like a compliment.
yeah, but that's like when you after somebody's set, is he a good comedian? He's a really nice guy, man. Yeah, Ronald, you're such a good guy.
no, you're a good guy. You're a guy who is good at so many things.
Yes.
Good, not in nature, but in skills.
Thank you,
and
man.
you're
We're not going to be
acting
able
is-
to get you
you're
for this
acting.
show before long. Is what we're
Oh
saying.
man, I'm gonna have my Donald Glover moment.
We're hanging on to you as long as we can.
Yes.
Out of here.
Is there going to be an episode 217 for Ronald? I don't know.
I don't know.
Even though it was already recorded.
Nobody knows.
Ronald's going to blow up by Friday and make you cut him out of the next
No,
episode.
this is going to be that
Take
thing.
me out.
This is going to be the. I'm being optimistic now. It's going to go the opposite way. There's going to be some moment where you're nominated for an award, and they're going to be like, "Why didn't he come to the ceremony?" And they're going to say he was back in Baltimore recording his podcast that he
Oh,
has
man.
not stopped doing
That could happen.
for 20 years or something like that.
That could happen.
You know.
Thank you.
I like that in that hypothetical scenario, you have a regimented enough schedule. You're like, he can't miss Wednesday.
Let's be honest,
it's
though.
every Wednesday.
Let's be honest though, he would have absolutely forgot when we were recording.
Man,
he would have shown up that Wednesday.
He would be
like,
up giving
it's
the
Thursday.
speech. He'd be
I'll
up giving the
tell you-
speech saying, "Oh shit, I want to thank Steve and John." Oh no! Oh no!
that
Wait,
day,
we were doing which list tonight?
the day that I forgot to come is one of my most shameful moments.
Oh man,
I can hear
what
the
a great,
rage.
What a great
I
night!
hear the rage in your voice. You were just like, fuck. What the fuck?
That was when I also had pneumonia and didn't know it.
Right, right.
It was good stuff, man.
Yes.
It was snowing. It was good
It
stuff.
was just a lot
We have
of
fun.
factors. There's a lot of factors. I apologize. Retroactively apologize. God, man, I feel so bad about that. You were like, hey, where you at? I'm like, I'm home, man.
Oh shit!
Fuck. I'm in Laurel.
Steve's like, "Well, I'm at John's."
Oh,
And
God.
Ronald's like, "Weird. What are you doing there?"
It's recorded.
Just have an emergency meeting without me.
God, man.
Well, don't forget June 7th.
Yeah.
Be it.
Oh,
be
man,
it
I'm going
Mike's
to put this in
premiere,
my,
okay?
put in my phone right now because I'm going to buy
Beep, bop,
tickets.
boop, boop, boop. That's Ronald.
Thanks, Mike.
Putting his phone.
I feel like Ronald turned into Michael Winslow this episode
Yes, he
with
did.
the sound
He's got the
effects.
sounds, man.
Yeah.
He's good with that too.
You really are good at everything.
Yeah.
See?
Thank you,
You
man.
are a
Comedian,
good guy.
podcast, noises.
Shitty impressions of computers. Yo, so good at it. Oh man, this was really fun.
Thanks
this
for
was
coming
super
on.
fun.
man.
Thank you
Really
so much for
appreciate you
having me, guys. That was
being on
awesome.
with us. Episode 216 is in the can. You can find us on movieshmovie.com, facebook.com/movieschmovie if you want to just stream it right from our page. Otherwise, whatever your choice podcast platform is, we should be there. If we're not, let us know so that we can try to get on there. And whatever it is, if you can like us, rate it, star it, whatever it is to let them know that you're listening and what you think of the show. We really appreciate it, and hopefully it helps maybe some other people find us as a new podcast to subscribe to. Again, June 7th, Board in the USA at the Senator Theater. Starts at 7 o'clock. You can go to boardintheusa.film.com to order tickets with the promo code BRANDMUFFINS, plural. Get a sweet deal on the premiere of the film at the Senator Theater. And we'll see you guys in a couple weeks with episode 217.
Yes.
And as always, you made our day. Bye.